I was 11 or 12 years old when Nintendo decided to forcefully download the first Bravely Default demo onto my 3DS. Remember when Nintendo used to do that? It was really annoying, and I would rant about it, but that's how I got introduced to an amazing series with a lot of potential. That doesn't mean I forgive them for putting Pokemon Shuffle on my 3DS, my god. I want to start this video off by saying that you can hop into Bravely Default 2 without playing the original games. From what I've seen in the demo and what has been said by the community, it seems that the stories from the games are completely separate and can be enjoyed on its own. That being said, I'm going to review this demo as if a complete newcomer is watching it so they can determine whether or not they want to try it out for themselves or buy the game when it releases. Bravely Default was made by Square Enix. They're also responsible for Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, and Kingdom Hearts, so a lot of spells and items names carried over from their other IPs. The demo starts you off in a town that is just beautiful to look at and explore. The art style they have for the town is gorgeous. Having your 3D model walk around in a town that is hand-drawn but is somehow also three-dimensional blends together in a way that I don't fully understand. The town is in a desert, but there's flooding for a mysterious reason, and you can see that half of the town is submerged in the water, with tops of buildings and staircases being visible if you look into it. Without very much information at all, the town is given an in-depth history from talking to a few NPCs and the art style in general. You can see that the town is adapting to this ironic scenario by building bridges to get between places in town or on higher ground. I didn't spend much time in this town at all, but the town made a large impact in a short amount of time and definitely has its own unique personality. The characters in your party also have very established personalities and relationships with each other.
Hey, nobody!
It's made very clear who is more comfortable with who, and all of their personalities work so well together. The fact that the characters don't know each other very well makes it easier for details about the character to be shared between conversations without ruining the flow of the story. Exploring the world in this game isn't anything too special. Nearly every door in this town can be walked into, and there are a few secret chests hiding around, but that's about it. Even in the overworld, there isn't too much to do besides collect chests and battle with enemies, which is a little disappointing to be honest. There are changes in the overworld that are very welcome though. Eliminating random encounters is something a lot of turn-based RPGs are starting to do by having monsters roam around the world freely. The combat is one of the most defining elements of this series' success. They use turn-based combat with their own spin on it. You know how there's a defend button in most JRPGs that nobody ever uses? Well, in this game, if you defend, or default in this title, you gain a BP, which stands for Brave Points. You will gain 1 BP every turn, but you lose 1 every time you attack. You have the option of Brave, to attack multiple times in one turn and go into the negative. However, this means you have your turn skipped until you have 0 again. This means defending allows you to attack multiple times without any consequence if you save up your points. Did that make sense? Are you keeping up? Yeah, no, I didn't expect you to. But it makes a lot more sense if you play it, and trust me, it's really cool and engaging. Speaking of which, there is a game mechanic that makes combat extremely engaging, and the whole game revolves around it. Bravely Default uses a job system to give certain classes to your character. Any class can be given to any character and you can experiment with them as you please, not to mention their outfit changes based on the job they have. You can make Elvis go from dark broody boy to, "Aw, someone give him a purse with a chihuahua." At the end of every battle, you're given experience points to level up your character, but you have a completely separate bar for job points to level up your character's job. Leveling up your job gives you access to more abilities that are only accessible through that job. For example, if you were a black mage, you would start unlocking stronger spells, like upgrading fire to Fyra to start doing more damage. Each job has equipment that is more effective for them. In fact, a beautiful thing about this game is the fact that you can equip anything on any job. The weapons even have rankings to show how effective they are. It gives you an incentive to put a staff on a mage instead of a war axe, which, makes sense. The customizability and different combinations that can be used really pull you into a part of JRPGs that most people tend to ignore. It really engages the player in the roles their characters are playing and finds a way to blend the strategy and JRPG genres very well. Because of all the customizable options the games are known for, they decided to make the demo more difficult to allow you to experiment without getting too overpowered. Since the real game will be gradually giving you these classes instead of giving them to you all at once, this was a really smart move for the demo. They did make a change in the combat that is controversial. Instead of choosing all of your party's moves and having the turn play out, you choose each character's moves individually and they do act immediately after you've decided. I personally like this because it means you can react to any situation that is thrown at you. However, there is a big problem that arises from this system. I want to start off by comparing this game to two other games that have changed to put this system in place, Dragon Quest XI and Final Fantasy X. The problem with Bravely Default is we don't know what order our characters are going to do their turns. It's completely unpredictable, and trust me, there are people out there who are trying to do the math and figure it out. But there are so many enemies with different speeds, your attributes change when you change your classes, and we didn't even take into account status effects. All of this sums up to meaning that we can't strategize how the battle is going to play out, and we're at the mercy of RNG at all times, and this is the very opposite of what Bravely Default is trying to accomplish with the way the rest of the game is set up. This individual attack system worked well in Dragon Quest XI and Final Fantasy X for two completely different reasons. Dragon Quest XI, to start off, didn't have a job system like Bravely Default does. By playing through the game, you start to get an idea of each character's speed and can make assumptions as to who's going to have their turn next. On top of that, Dragon Quest XI in general was a much easier game because you didn't have as much freedom with the options that are given to you in Bravely Default. Not to mention, the Brave and Default systems aren't in the Dragon Quest games to let enemies attack multiple times in one turn. Admittedly, the problem did still arise in Dragon Quest XI from time to time, but in Bravely Default, I felt like I was worried about turn order during every single battle. Final Fantasy X went a completely different route and just wiped the problem altogether by putting a visual on the screen that showed who was going to be attacking for the next few turns, something literally everybody has praised, yet nobody decided to continue doing it. My personal preference for Bravely Default 2 is to keep the current battle system, but implement a visual that lets us see the turn order. Like I said earlier, I think the new battle system gives us more freedom, and with the turn visuals the player can start strategizing in a brand new way. Besides, it fits the theme of customization and freedom that is given to us through these series. Although the customization is fantastic in the demo we played, there are a few user interface problems I was having with my experience. They weren't anything game-breaking, but a few things made customizing hard to do and inconvenient for me. At first, the text box giving me descriptions of menu items really bothered me because it was blocking off a lot of the menu. I was having trouble seeing all of my equipment, and having that blocked off was very inconvenient. Then I realized you can press the Y button to toggle those descriptions on and off, and then that wasn't a problem anymore. Yeah, I know I can be dumb sometimes, but how was I supposed to know? I have a huge issue with the menus not telling me how much change is happening with my stats when changing equipment. Let's say I'm buying an axe, I can see what my attack is going to be, and the number is blue indicating that the axe is improving my attack. The problem is I don't know how much improvement I'm getting. I don't want to spend a bunch of money if I'm only going to be raising my attack by just 1 point, but if it's 10 point, then that's a definite buy. For me to find out my attack stat, I'd have to leave the shop and check my attributes, or scroll through and hope the shop isn't selling an item that changes my attack stat. Then I'd have to do the math in my head to find out how much improvement there is, and yes, I know I may be blowing this up way more than I have to, but I really don't like doing math, and if there's a single thing I would change between the demo and release, this would be it. The only other user interface issue I was having was that there was no menu for side quests. You were able to hold L to see your quest, but if I ever had more than 2 side quests at a time, it could start to get problematic. It's possible that they just didn't want to put it into the demo because it wasn't really necessary. However, we do need a menu in the full game so we can manage side quests, toggle them on and off, and see what the rewards are for completing them. The demo ends when you defeat the boss at the end of the dungeon you want to investigate. You're given an asterisk, which is a stone that lets you use the job that the boss was using. Then the demo ends abruptly during dialogue and cuts to a thanks for playing and 2020 being displayed on the screen to tell us the release date. And I'm gonna be honest, I lost my mind when this happened. This demo's entire purpose was built upon the idea of being able to experiment with the combat and job systems. Giving you a new job and not allowing you to use it is the worst thing this demo could possibly do. It defeats the entire purpose of why this demo— they just put you back into the game afterwards with the class and let you experiment with it more. Needless to say, I was very happy that they did that, and that alone would have satisfied me. Of course, they added more though. There was a side quest added to fight another boss that was hard. On top of that, they also added another secret boss that is hinted to you by someone in town, and that boss was harder. This demo was honestly a masterpiece, and I enjoyed playing through it. The idea of creating a demo to let players freely experiment with different styles of gameplay is something we don't see very often. There are even games that have the perfect setup to let you do stuff like this, but cut you off from playing once you hit a certain point. The freedom I was given in this demo is more freedom I have been given in a lot of fully released games that I have played, and that fact alone makes me really excited for the game to come out. I'm gonna be completely honest and say that I probably wouldn't have bought Bravely Default 2 if I hadn't played the demo first. This demo succeeded in getting me interested in the game, and at the end of the day, that's what a demo should do.